Alrighty guys, today we are going to start the first section of chapter 8. And I didn't color code things in this video, but whenever you look at the slides themselves, they will be color coded so you'll know what you need to write down and what you don't need to write down. But if you're just watching this video, you can relax and sit back. Just pay attention. So the first section is all about chromosomes. So remember, only eukaryotic cells have nuclei, and when a cell is not reproducing, its DNA is spread throughout the inside of the nucleus. It's not all nice and neatly packed up. So there's the nucleus, and you can see all those strings in there. That's your DNA. It's just hanging out. It's kind of in a big mess. Chromatin is less tightly coiled DNA protein complex that is spread throughout the nucleus. So it kind of looks like a bunch of spaghetti noodles, if you will. Or maybe like a brain. It just kind of hangs out on there. It's loosey-goosey, chill and relax, and not really doing anything too spectacular. During cell division, the DNA in the nucleus is coiled into very compact structures called chromosomes. A chromosome is a rod-shaped structure made of DNA and proteins, and a karyotype is a photomicrograph of the cells in a normal dividing cell. So here we have a karyotype, and you can see all of the chromosomes lined up. You should have a total of 46. If you have more or less, then that would denote some type of a genetic condition. And just because they're bent or a little wiggly does not mean anything is wrong with them. So don't think that this person has some type of a condition just because a chromosome might be bent up. They're allowed to be like that, and they're still completely normal. Most of the time, whenever you're looking at karyotypes, you're just looking for extra chromosomes, maybe you're missing one, and you're also determining the sex of the organism. This one has 2 X's, so that would be considered a female. Now we can also color code them and make them look really pretty. The highlighted areas are showing different genes on each chromosome. Chromosome 1 is the longest, and it has the most genes on it. Chromosome number 22 is going to be the smallest, and it has the least amount of genes on it. This particular chromosome or karyotype is from a male because it has a Y. So if you have a Y, you're a guy. 2 X's gives you a girl. Now looking at this one, we can see that the sex of this person would be a female because there's 2 X's and no Y. But this number 21 is circled over here, and that's because there are 3 chromosomes. You should only have 2. If you have 3 chromosomes on number 21, that actually gives you Down syndrome. This one, while not showing you actual chromosomes, if you look, there's only 1 X there. So that's going to be a female because there's no Y. If you have a Y, that's what turns you into a guy. If you only have X's, you're a girl. Now this is an XO, so that means that they only have 1 X, and they are actually going to have Turner's syndrome. Most of the time when they have Turner's syndrome, this particular person will, look normal. They may have some slight developmental delays, but a lot of times they are infertile, meaning that they cannot have kids of their own. So histones, this is the protein in eukaryotic cells that DNA wraps around, and the DNA is wrapped tightly around these histones. The tight packing of DNA is going to help the chromosomes maintain shape and structure. So here we have DNA in its nice loosey-goosey form. These little purple guys are histones. Those are the proteins that the DNA is going to coil itself around. And as it coils up and becomes super, super tight, it's going to end up in this X shape, and that's what we call a chromosome. Chromosomes consist of 2 identical halves called chromatids. Chromatids form because DNA makes a copy of itself before cell division, and when the cell divides, each of the 2 new cells will receive 1 chromatid from each chromosome. So here's a chromatid, unduplicated. It's going to go through DNA replication, and it's going to have an exact copy of itself on the other side. So here we can see that the chromosome has split apart, and it's now going into each of the 2 daughter cells. So each cell should have the same type of DNA. The 2 chromatids of a chromosome are attached at a point in the center called the centromere. The centromere holds the 2 chromatids together until they separate during cell division. So again, here we have our chromosome, and it is separating during cell division, going into its separate cells. Here we have our chromatin, and it's just showing you how it is going to be supercoiling up into a chromosome. If you've ever eaten a pack of ramen, you could think of the cooked ramen as the chromatin and the Uncooked ramen in its nice hard tight form would be the chromosome. Since prokaryotes don't have a nucleus, their DNA is attached just to the inside of the membrane, and it just hangs out in there. Humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes, or 46 chromosomes in total. Prokaryotes usually only have one chromosome, and it's going to be circular in shape. It's a lot simpler, there's not as many genes on it because it's not as complex as a eukaryotic cell. Animal chromosomes include two different types. We have the sex chromosomes, which determine the sex of an organism. So females are going to have two X's, males are going to have one X and one Y. Now, I know you might be thinking, okay, well, you had a girl who just had one X. Can you have a boy who just has a Y? And the answer to that is actually no. Boys have to have an X chromosome because there's a lot of other genes on there as well. That Y just has what we call the male genes on it, and that's what actually turns them from a girl into a boy. So it's kind of crazy to think about, but yes, boys do start out as girls, and then that Y chromosome kicks in and it turns them into a boy. You can also have a boy if you have two X chromosomes and a Y. So that would mean they would have 3 total sex chromosomes. As long as that Y is there, it's a guy. I always like to rhyme Y with guy. If you see the Y, it's a guy. If you don't see a Y, then it's a girl. So looking at this one, would you say male or female? You're looking down there at that X and the Y chromosome. I see there's a Y over here. That means it is a guy. The Y chromosome is a lot shorter than the X chromosome because there's not nearly as many genes on it. It just carries a couple traits such as hairy ears and making them into a boy. Male pattern baldness is also on the Y chromosome. That's what we call it, male pattern baldness. Male or female? Looking at this one down here, you're looking for that X and the Y at the bottom. There's 2 X's, so this one is a female. Autosomes are all the chromosomes in an organism's body that are not sex chromosomes. Sex chromosomes make up 2 of the 46 human chromosomes. Autosomes make up 44 of the 46 human chromosomes. So here we go. Those ones in the box there are the autosomes, and that carries all of your other DNA. An organism receives one copy of each autosome from each parent. We call them homologous chromosomes because it means that these 2 copies of each autosome that the cell contains, they have the same DNA on them. Not that you have the same traits, but your mom's going to give you a gene for hair color and your dad's going to give you a gene for hair color. Homologous chromosomes are the same size and shape, and they carry genes for the same traits. Now, diploid means that these cells have 2 sets of chromosomes. Diploid cells have 2 autosomes for each homologous pair. All human cells, except reproductive cells, the sperm and the egg, are diploid. Diploid is abbreviated as 2N. So here we have diploid, and you can see that they are shaded in different colors. One would be from your mom, one would be from your dad, but this is a homologous pair, homologous chromosome, so we have 2 of them that stick together. Haploid, this is only going to refer to your sperm and egg cells, and that's because they contain one set of chromosomes. Haploid cells have half the number of chromosomes that are present in diploid cells, and we can abbreviate this as 1N or just N. Think of it like math class. If you are using variables, you might have like an X. You're not going to put 1X because you assume that if there's no number in front of it, it is a 1. So why is it important that our sex cells are haploid? Well, think about it. If you got 2 sex chromosomes from your mom and 2 sex chromosomes from your dad, then you would actually end up with double the amount of chromosomes and you would not be able to have a viable baby. It would be miscarried because it has way too many chromosomes. So when it's haploid, that means that your mom's cells meet up with your dad's cells, and that gives you the perfect number of 46. And that's going to bring us up to section 2, and we are going to stop there for today on section 1.